Well, welcome everyone. Thank you, CMO Pirrotti, for hosting this incredibly exciting event today. We have an amazing panelist of industry leaders. So I am delighted to welcome you to the highly anticipated webinar, The Visibility Game Changers for Emerging Franchise Brands. As mentioned, we have an incredible panel today of industry-leading experts that will help you unlock the secrets of success in a very competitive world of franchising. And I'm honored to be your host for this exciting event. My name is Jessica Martin. I'm the CMO with Payroll Vault, and we will be joined by this power-packed panel of industry influences who truly understand the ins and outs of the franchise businesses or of business and the franchise industry. So let me kind of introduce our esteemed guest today. We have Liane Caruso. She is a certified franchise executive, bringing her wealth of knowledge and experience to the table. We have Michelle Rowan. She's also a CFE who will share her insights gained from years of working in the franchise industry. And then we're also joined by the dynamic Tanashe Martin, who will bring a fresh perspective and innovative strategies to the discussion. And then Andrea Pirrotti-Dranchak, hopefully I said that right. She is an MBA that will provide valuable expertise on boosting brand visibility, even when resources are limited. And I'm sure that we can all kind of relate to that in some respect. And last but not least, Krista Gregg. She is a seasoned professional in the field and will round out our panel of experts. So during this webinar, these industry influences will be dropping gems and sharing their insider knowledge on how to make your franchise brand shine brighter and bigger than ever before. So this is not just an opportunity to learn from the best, it is a chance to connect with other like-minded franchise enthusiasts, and also, most importantly, tap into the expertise of top-notch industry influences. So no matter the size of the business or the limitations you may face, this session promises to be a game changer. So let's go ahead and get started. If you haven't connected with the Promo Republic CMO Pure Talks community, please do so. Go ahead and snap the QR code and follow. That way you can keep up with us and get all of the little juicy gems a little bit later on. Okay, today what we are going to talk about is how can emerging franchisors develop a unique brand identity in 2023. A lot has changed and a lot will continue changing. And then what is the secret to being chosen for an award? And do awards actually help ratings and just with visibility as a whole? And which affordable marketing tactics and channels offer the best ROI for brand growth? So we have a lot of information to cover today, and let's go ahead and dive in. So Tanashe, I'm going to hand it over to you for your introduction first.
Okay, awesome. I'm first up. Look at this. Hello, everybody. I am Tanashe Martin. I am in the Midwest, the true Midwest, all my life, right outside of St. Louis, Missouri. I have been in franchising for over 20 years. Even though I look 25, I am told I will take it. And currently I am the director of franchise development marketing for PuroClean restoration brand, which has been amazing. They are a rock star, amazing culture-based servant leadership executive team over there, and I am really enjoying my first few months. I'm only 4 months in, so I'm still in the thicket of getting all things squared away and just moving in the right direction to keep that brand exploding. And really excited to be here to give you my 2 cents. So thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Michelle, would you like to do a brief introduction as well?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Michelle Rowan, and I've been in franchising for 15 years on the supplier side. I'm the president and CEO of Franchise Business Review. So we work with franchisors to get feedback from their franchisees to use internally. And we also do feedback from headquarter teams and line employees. So for franchisees as well. So we're all things feedback within franchising. And we also have our franchise satisfaction awards that we give out. And those are open to all brands that have 10 franchisees or more. And it's all based on what your current franchisees are saying about your business. So that's, I think, probably why I'm on here today, and to talk about the award side and opportunities for smaller brands. Thanks for having me.
We love it. We love it. Okay. How about you, Andrea?
Hi, good afternoon. I have run franchise development, brand sales, marketing, for more than 1,000 locations across 65 brands and or 65 countries and 30 brands. So the topics of all things revenue generation, network expansion are near and dear to my heart. I am currently based out of Connecticut, just a little bit outside of New York City, and I commute to London every month as the global enterprise director for a company called NewFlex. NewFlex is in the world of co-working. We have 8 brands that we run. And I'm working on product development and network expansion for them. So I'm excited to talk about emerging brands and awards and how we can tactically, with the greatest ROI, generate revenue. Thanks for having me.
And I think you might have the longest commute to work of all of us.
Or shortest, because I only commute 1 week out of the month. So that's how I convinced myself anyway.
Well, perspective.
Yeah. And last, but certainly not least, let's introduce Krista.
Yes. So I am probably the newest person on the panel to franchising, it sounds like. I have over 15 years of professional experience in marketing, public relations, digital media. But in 2019, my husband and I decided we were going to join forces and start a Bio1 company and start our own franchise. And so I actually have put on the suit with Bio1. We do biohazard decontamination, hoarding, biohazard blood cleanups, remediations. And after owning and running a successful business, I joined the corporate team officially last year as their marketing director. And so I'm so excited that I can take my jobby job experience that I call and mold that into something that I'm deeply passionate about with Bio1 and that I've seen from the ground up. So yeah, I'm so excited to be here with all of you as well.
Wonderful. And Liane, would you like to introduce yourself today?
Yes, thank you. Hi, I'm Liane Caruso. I'm based out of Tampa, and I have been in franchising for over 12 years. I've been in marketing for well over 20. I'm same age as Tanashe, I guess. So I look 25. I wish, but anyway, so I have a fractional CMO marketing consultancy. So I primarily do fractional CMO work for franchise brands, typically emerging and some suppliers. And I also do franchise development, marketing, consulting as well. So thank you for having me.
Well, thank you all. This is going to be such an exciting topic today. So let's go ahead and dive in. And I want to know, how can emerging franchisors develop a unique brand identity in 2023? Would anyone like to take the lead on this?
I would love to. I've given this a bunch of thought, and I love the word develop because creating a unique brand identity really requires building blocks. And for me, the foundation of these building blocks for the most successful brands are really based on making human connections. And so the first layer, in a very practical sense, of making a human connection is to capture hearts and minds. And I've long used this approach, to build brands to achieve a sustainable competitive advantage. And it's not an easy strategy to develop and execute, but once you get it right, it's like the bond that you create with your customer is really difficult to break. So just if we just go through the check boxes of how to do that, it's like the first thing that you want to do is uncover the objective problem. So what problem are we solving for? Are we solving for, and based on the brand, obviously in your service, that'll be different, but are we trying to save money? Are we trying to save time? Are we trying to get over some sort of safety issue? What problem are we solving for? And if you can determine whether you can solve for that problem or not, then you have to go to the heart, right? And you have to say, what barriers are getting in the way of opening the heart of my prospective customer? And more often than not, what gets in the way of opening their heart, even if it comes down to laundry detergent or co-working space or Camp Bow Wow, it is often based on fear. And so you got to figure out a way, or the fear of making a wrong decision. So once you've figured out the objective problem that you're solving for, then you have to figure out the problem that you're solving for in terms of opening the heart. And then once you've established that, you figure out, you put your communication plan into play, right? Then you get your messaging and you express why you can clearly solve for that problem and why you are most uniquely positioned to solve for that problem. And then finally, you figure out, how the heck am I going to communicate this all? Well, I'm a big proponent of conversational marketing. And so the first step is really, let's move away from, at a very tactical level, let's move away from static web forms and let's have chatbots on our website. Let's move away from social activity where you're talking at the person, and let's get engaging social activity. Let's move away from, let's move towards experiential marketing. So bringing people in to engage with your product or service while igniting their senses, taste, smell, touch. And the other thing is, I think most importantly in capturing hearts and minds, is then driving home that accountability. And in the world of franchise, by the very nature inherent in the model is that it's locally owned, right? It's local, typically. Never let the truth get in the way of a good story, even if it's not completely locally owned. But there's that local ownership, that there's that local accountability. There's a face associated with that local brand. And so that then needs to be woven in to all of your communication. So find out what problem you're solving for objectively and psychologically. Number 2 is be able to clearly articulate how you're going to solve that problem in an effort to open hearts and minds. And then number 3 is start utilizing conversational marketing tactics in order to convey to convey your solution, and most definitely drive accountability. If it's not the franchise owner, then somebody who works for the franchise owner, or a spokesperson for the franchise owner. I have found that to be very helpful in establishing the building blocks for a brand.
I love that. There were a lot of great takeaways. And I think, one of the things that you hit on that's so important right now is maintaining that connection and making it an engaging connection and something that's important. So does anyone else have anything that they would like to contribute?
Yeah, I just wanted to add this idea too, that you really have to have your team on board about what your brand identity is, and they are your brand. So I know that there's a lot of discussion around how involved your CEO or your COO, those top leaders, are on social. And I think it's crucial. I think that transparency of who your people are that are driving this brand is really important. And that they're making connections to the people behind the brand. I will say, and I apologize if everyone on this call does this, but where you combine the number of years your team has been in an industry or something comes across as a little, that's not how experience works. You're not adding up everyone's experience, and it just comes across as you're trying to oversell yourself. So instead, I think it's really important to be transparent about who you are, what those foundations of your brand are, and get involved in the conversation, which I think is what Andrea is saying, that you to make it engaging, it has to be the people, not the brand, that are asking these questions or posing that storytelling side of what's happening. So use the team members. If you don't have franchisees yet, tell their stories. What were they doing before they came into the brand? And to Andrea's point too, really making sure that people in the community know that a franchise is a locally owned and operated business is a huge differentiator, because there is a lot of lack of awareness as far as they think it's a corporate person coming in. So tell the story of why that person chose to get into business and how involved and connected they are to the community.
Michelle.
Yeah,
just
I'd love to, oh, sorry.
I
I
apologize.
was gonna say, no, I would say I'd love to add on to that, Michelle. Those are all things that I was gonna say between the two of you, but on top of having your team on board, really focusing on the customer experience, because your brand identity is going to be reinforced by delivering that exceptional service. They're going to be your raving fans, and they're also the ones that are going to spread the word, good or bad, which could be detrimental or extraordinarily positive for your business. So as well as having your team being on board with your brand identity within the community, make sure that your customers, that you're delivering the best customer experience possible.
I'll also add too, I like to work backwards sometimes on this, where I ask myself in 3 to 5 years, and this is probably more applicable for new companies coming up, but in 3 to 5 years, what types of reviews do you want to see online from your customers? What are the key words that they're saying? What are the descriptive adjectives of your business that you really want them to shout from the rooftops of how amazing you are? What do you want franchisees to be saying about working and starting their own business for this type of company? And how do you want them to feel? And what are those key values there? And then also in the home office, anyone working there, how do you want them to be talking about this franchise? And how do you want them to share their experiences? I think word of mouth and how you make people feel, which is such a key element of this conversation already so far, but building up your core values in your brand internally, I like to start with, how do you want that to look like 3 to 5 years down the road? What do you want to be seeing online, and how do you want people talking about it?
Yeah, I was going to actually kind of mimic that a little bit, Krista, is kind of going back to very, very peeled back basics is, do you know who your customer avatar is? What are your customer avatars, right? You as a franchisor have a different mission than the franchisees. Franchisees are boots in the ground, or they will be, and they are, right? They are products and services boots in the ground in their local community. As a franchisor, you have a more of an audacious task, right? Because you are trying to bring along those franchise partners and those franchise owners that are going to lock arms with you in a multifaceted way. So not just ROI, not just KPIs, not just bottom line revenue, but in every sense of the manner, because they are, like we all have agreed so far, they are your brand. So who are you attracting? Do you have a strategic plan to map out your customer avatars and have 3 to 5 that you are marketing just to those 3 to 5 customer avatars, and you are speaking their language? You are giving them all the feels depending on who they are, right? Because I am not Krista, I am not Michelle, I am not Andrea or Liane, and we are going to see things, feel things, experience things in different ways. And so for me, the way I like to approach it, and when I came into PuroClean, and I'm still there, so I've not arrived yet, trust me, but because it takes a little time, but when you really get a great strategic plan behind whom are your ideal customers, or I call them strategic partners, to be honest with you, in the audience that you're going for and marketing to, there is a plan that you can develop on a very almost elementary level to really set a campaign in forward and moving forward to capture those ideal people and get into some really great conversations that are geared towards them and your brand, already almost pre-qualifying them. And we love that word, right? Who doesn't want to pre-qualify? I want to pre-qualify, right? But if you can pre-qualify them and really having those not generic, but really great campaigns for those avatars, you are already one step ahead. And that also sets your brand identity apart, because all your marketing is going to come out of that, right? That's going to set you apart in each one of those avatars, and your brand is going to be known for maybe conversions, maybe for, there could be just multiple ways you could go with it. But I think just very elementary is, do you have a plan? You actually have a plan and know who you're talking to.
I think all of those are super important facts. And I think what I kind of got out of the conversation from all of you is that your key driver is going to be your brand identity. It seems like that's what is really going to set your mission, your values, your culture, the overall vision, which is going to then reinforce the customer experience. And then it's also going to help you dive into those client avatars. And I think, do any of you, before we kind of move on to the next question, do you have a way within your individual brands that you have outlined that brand identity? You know, is it a living document? Is it something that it starts out as a document and then is reinforced through internal communications that start with leadership and then kind of trickle down? Like, do all of you have a specific way that happens within your franchise?
I'm getting there. So because I'm kind of newer to PuroClean, right? I am evolving and looking and refreshing and rehashing and new SOPs down the pipe, right? But that's my goal, 100%, is to have that bankable go back to, revisit it monthly with my team. Because if you're staying really honed in and focused and supportive of each other, throughout your brand and even across arms and different departments, right? It takes everybody, especially in marketing, it takes a team of people. I revisit it often. I go back and say, okay, what was our goal? Where are we going with this? Okay, this is this avatar. This is this avatar. Okay, are we going to maybe focus on one greater than the other? Sorry. Next quarter, it's just a great thing to have in front of you that you can always go back to. In that strategic plan I spoke about earlier, which doesn't have to be very, very lengthy. It can be very robust. I have seen hugely robust strategic plans, and I have seen some that are just like almost like a breathing, living document, and those have worked well also. But we revisit it at least monthly, and that kind of helps keep the team and the brand, if you will, as the executive leaders. It keeps us focused on where our mission and what our goals are, and so almost there. I'm getting there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that's critically important, and it does in our world too. And it just just go back to Michelle's point. It does start from internal, but it starts from corporate, right? And but it starts even before that. It starts as your during the discovery process for the franchisee, right? Because they are embodying, the franchisee is your voice in the local market. And I think that, so what we would typically do, and it depends on brand to brand, but, we make sure that from that very moment during that discovery process and during discovery day, that we're layering in our core values. And we do that. We've done that through video, long form, and we've also done that through short form, the elevator statement, and then drilling down into words we use, words we don't use, how we handle this. And that is done throughout the entire discovery process with the franchisee. And then throughout all of the monthly calls, we start again with that to root them into what our core values are and what we're sending out to the market and the value that we bring to the ultimate consumer. Because if you don't have that human connection with the franchisee, you're kind of done. The other thing is that I think it really helps to, and that needs to be delivered in multiple ways. It can't just be delivered in the same way each time. And that's why we use multimedia. We use a minute video and the elevator statement so that it's short form and practical. So yes, that is a brilliant point, Jessica. It has to be a living, breathing document.
I know that from Payroll Vault's perspective, leadership got together and actually outlined the entire brand ID from a lot of the points that you said, taglines, the client mission, vision, goals, our core values. And as I'm putting together materials and our team we're collaborating about things, we have that document up, and it's a constant presence in our everyday to make sure that hopefully flows through and flows out.
100%. Well, and as we grow, because Bio One, we're still small and nimble with, in terms of our home office, but as we grow, as we continue to hire, that's going to be more critical than ever for our team, because I need people to look at the brand through my lens, and I can't, people aren't going to read my mind, you know? And so I think Ashley Mitchell gave a great presentation at the conference in Atlanta, the franchise experience, or was it franchise FXC, franchise consumer experience? I can never get that acronym right.
There's so many in our world. You'll just be like, you know, the one. You know,
The one,
you'll eventually just start saying that.
I was just there, that one. But I loved it because she created these values, and she created this system in her network where it goes back to, okay, here are the priority values and how we make decisions. And so everyone from the franchisee all the way up, whenever they're making important decisions, everyone has that same guide of how to think about things. And I'm sure nothing's perfect, but man, that has to be powerful. So I want to be Ashley when I grow up and have that set in stone. And then going back to Andrea's point a second ago, just Bio One for biohazard cleaning, there's no one that just immediately like is born into this world and says, yes, I'm going to clean up blood for a living. I'm going to, you know, help people. And it's such a unique industry that we can really teach a lot of skill, but if the will's not there, if the personality is not there, if you're not compassionate about your community, if you're not compassionate about helping people, if you don't uphold those brand values and you're just in it because you want to be a looky-loo and think it's kind of cool, it's not going to work. You have to have the will, you have to meet the brand personality, and then we can teach you the skill. And we can do that all day long, but that's a really big piece of our discovery as well, is these folks that we're bringing onto our system. It's so important that they already have those brand values.
Well, there's so much that we could really deep dive into, all wonderful points. And thank you all for sharing. We'll kind of jump forward to the next big question. What is the secret to being chosen for an award? Do awards and ratings help? Michelle, do you want to kick us up on that one?
This would be Michelle's kind of a niche, if you will.
Right? Of course, it would be weird if I said that they didn't. There are so many awards out there, and there's awards that are based on your local community that you're in. So your franchisees could even help you kind of keep an eye on it. But if you're in the beginning stages, you probably aren't engaging in a PR company right off the bat. And I know that we're trying to talk about things that are affordable. Your time is well spent on applying for awards if you have what the criteria is that they're looking for. I think that the people that are giving the awards are more in tune with what the qualifications are and how meaningful it is, but you can take that information and use that as a way to really differentiate your brand or reinforce. It's I don't know that we'll talk about it today, but it's the same way that I feel about data and using third-party data. Using a third-party award is a great way to help establish credibility when you are trying to build your brand and build that awareness of what you stand for. So I always say, you know, it's definitely worth it. There's tons of free opportunities out there, and there's others that are paid. So if it's a paid opportunity, you know, talking to people to understand what value it brought to their business or how they use it in their process to talk to their consumers or to their target candidates that they're looking to bring in the system is important. So the thing with awards is they're not all equal, and some are based on really substantial and important things, and others are fluff. But again, if you're a newer brand, if you're trying to extend your dollars, this is a great way to extend that and build credibility with your consumers and your target markets that you're looking to help you grow. So for our award, the Franchise Satisfaction Award, we invite all brands that have at least 10 franchisees open and operating to participate in our research. We offer a free version of the survey to make sure that our award is based on franchisee feedback and not pay to play. So asking those questions about what goes into an award, I think, can be an important thing, but that I would say weighs more on people that are limited in time or resources to fill out these forms. I was one of the judges for Franchise Updates Innovation Award for several years in a row. And again, it's free, but you have to take the time to tell your story of why you think you deserve the award. So if you have a person that can do that on your staff, it's a great use of resource, I think. And then I don't know a lot about the Entrepreneur Award, but I know that Liane can probably speak to that. But those kinds of things where they have an audience, they have a credibility, get your brand in front of that audience any way you can. So Liane, I don't know if you want to jump in on kind of how they pick their 500.
Yeah, I'm happy to. One of the things I like about this question is, what is the secret to being chosen for an award? And the first thing I thought of is we have to apply.
Yeah.
So that's it. They're mostly all free, especially the ones in
Yeah, they
franchising.
really
And
are.
that's
Yeah.
and there's no reason not to, other than time and bandwidth and making the time to actually put the effort into the applications. Some of the applications are pretty extensive. Like Michelle said, PR companies often fill them out for their brands, or the brands do it. And even for those of you who don't know, I most recently came from Entrepreneur and oversaw the franchising division of Entrepreneur. So the Franchise 500, which is so significant to so many brands and is really a powerful validator to your brand success. It's also a great benchmark. I know, our good friend Paul Pickett from Wild Birds has been on the list 43 years, I think, and watching them grow throughout the years, it's such a great way to kind of track your success throughout. And like Michelle said, find out what the qualifications are for the award, because especially if we're talking to emerging brands and micro emerging brands here today, even if you don't qualify or make the Franchise 500, you're still eligible for other lists to make. So they have new and emerging, they have, fastest growing, they have food, they have all of those other awards that are available, and every single one of them is free. And so being on there and just having that exposure, being on the list, and this applies to all of the different awards that are out there. Even Franchise Update has some great awards that you can apply for, the Innovator Awards, and they do those ceremonies. It's just another great stamp of approval, third-party validation. I'm a big fan of the awards, and it's just a way to stand out. And I know that people search in the magazine to find brands, and they actually can get new franchisees from it. So.
Well, and Liane, on the Franchise Update, if you're attending the Leadership and Development Conference in the fall, they offer, if you sign up for the early bird, do it, because with that, they will secret shop your website. So that's even free intel that you're getting. You can win an award if you actually do well, as far as it's based on your website, and then your web response to a lead, your call response to a lead, and then they do a franchisee satisfaction award that's based on our survey. But if you apply for that early bird, they do all of that for free, just for you attending the conference and signing up early. So you can win an award. And plus you're getting all this, you're getting their time and their resources back to give you intel on your process. So there's a lot like that as well, where there's so much more benefit to it than just the actual award winning. So if you don't get it, you're part of that research as far as how well is franchising doing on converting candidates to an actual deal in their system. So take advantage of all of that.
Yeah, for some of the questions in the chat, I believe the applications are open now, and I think they close. I'm not at Entrepreneur anymore, but I'm pretty sure they close like towards the end of August. You can go online to entrepreneur.com/franchise 500 and submit an application. And to that point, anytime, even though applications aren't open and you're a new brand, you can apply for a listing on the site and just fill out your free application, and you have a free listing on those sites as well. And it's not just Entrepreneur, so definitely check out the other opportunities available.
So
and backing Liane just a smidge. Oh, sorry. Just backing her a smidge. Like we actually, just a little stat for you. Even from our Entrepreneur Awards at PuroClean, because we've thankfully gotten quite a few over the last few years, and actually just got a new one of an inaugural multi-unit award. And I was like, oh, look, I get an award. And, because they do, keep you kind of in the loop. When you put your application in, first off, they can wrap you in your stats and your info into other awards and present them to you, and you might not even necessarily know per se. So that's kind of a cool factor, just so you know. And actually, we got 2 franchisees who are actually opening in the next 2 months off of Entrepreneurs leads from their awards page. So it does make a huge difference, and can really give you some really great qualified leads that kind of know what franchising is, want to be in franchising, and are really seeking those companies out. We have 2 opening next month, so it does work.
Yeah, I
Very exciting.
completely agree with that. And it works on multiple levels. First, the secret to being chosen for an award, every time any company that I've ever worked for, that we've submitted for an award, or any of the franchisees who have won awards on a local level have won really because of the story. Listen, you need the numbers to validate it. You need the background to validate it, but everybody loves a good story. So the more you can bring your brand alive on the page, the more that you can, within the defined questions, bring your story to life on the page, you have a better opportunity to win. I mean, again, you have to have the fundamentals of the criteria for to win the award, but bring that story to life. I've often had PR agencies fill out the application for me, but most often when we win, it is when we internally have layered on the additional embellishments and passion that can often only come from internal into the story. And then, yes, encouraging franchisees on a local level and helping them. What we would do is help them to identify local awards that they can apply for. And that has a rumbling up effect, right? Because it's the franchisor getting the award, and then it's showing the franchisee also in exhibiting success on a local level. And it works. Awards all day long. Yes.
I love that. And kind of before we move on to the next topic, there were, when we're looking at awards, and then, you know, we're all about tracking and measuring. And what are some of the insights that you can give the newer or more emerging franchisors about how to track that? If it's paid, how do they track an ROI or an engagement level? If it's organic, how can they kind of look and see how their visibility is increasing? Do you have any advice for the newer franchisees on that, or franchisors?
Well, I think it's really important to track everything. So if you are coaching your development people, the first question should be, how did you find out about us? Because even when it came through a specific site or form, it's usually not the first touch. We've all heard it. It takes 7 touches. It takes 33 touches, whatever it takes. Those awards are going to be that one additional impression that you have on it. So just asking that question will help pick up on what resonated with them. And then if they go through your process, understanding all the ways that they know about your brand before they've talked to you. But I think that's one. And then just tracking everything with your digital marketing is crucial. But I think that you can't track every lead back to its single source. So the culmination of what you're spending is important. So when we go to the leadership and development conference, I'm always amazed at the franchisors that can't articulate what their cost per acquisition is. So wherever that's coming from, know that number. And then you'll know when you do sign up with a new website, when you do sign up with a lead generation, what is your expectation of how much you'll spend there before you'll get a return on it? And then other ways that it's helping you besides just that conversion to a customer or to a candidate, to a franchisee, whatever that is, know your data and then make sure you're utilizing it. Don't just get the award, reference it, put it in your email signatures, put it on your website, coach your development team to talk about it, or your franchisees in their local markets to talk about it with their stories. Like Andrea said, your franchise owner does not come in knowing everything that they need to know about the business. So that's one of the ways a franchisor can really help them, is setting them up with those toolkits on, like, if you're approached for a story or a media thing, get these 3 things in every story, whatever, or put this in your email signature, hang this sign in your store. That's a great way you can help. And it will help you at the franchisor level, not just the store level.
That's right.
I love it. Does anyone else have anything that they would like to contribute?
I have nothing to contribute, but I want to acknowledge, like, that was all I kept thinking about, Michelle, is once you finally get the award, how do you maximize it for your business? How do you take that story that you're building to get the award and then take it and infiltrate it across the entire system? And I think Michelle's summary was fantastic in that, because there's so much buildup to get there. And then when you finally get it, I think we can all probably agree that more can even be done after you get the award to really maximize that value and that potential and that exposure.
It's the one time you can't be afraid or be shy about celebrating your success in a very public, very wide way.
Yeah, 100%. No humble pie. Just got to be
Yeah.
out there and own it. And what is it? Work it, girl. Whatever we used to see in the 90s. It's all about that. You can't be
And
humble.
it's evergreen. We think that it's only that news of an award is only alive for, I don't know, the first whatever. It's not. That award is evergreen until a new award in that class is submitted. And even when it's not, I mean, entrepreneur, you keep that this year, you're just piling it up. So yeah, I agree. Long shot.
I love that. I love thinking of it in an evergreen perspective. Okay. Are we ready for the final one? Which affordable marketing tactics and channels offer the strongest ROI for brand growth? That's a big one.
Yeah. I'm like, you could go so many different directions.
I see everyone's wheels turning and they're like, okay, where do we even start with that one? How do we even unpack it?
Well, and not only and I don't necessarily have a distinct answer, but as I was reading this question, ROI and tracking ROI versus also growing the brand, those can be two very different elements of your business.
Right.
And that was the first thing I did was like, okay, how am I going to separate ROI? I can easily do with tracking leads and doing digital activations.
Right.
And then, brand awareness. I mean, that's sponsorships, that's events, that's boots, and so my brain automatically wants to separate those. I don't know if anyone else had that experience either.
I do. So that's exactly what I do when I'm building a marketing strategy. It's like, okay, I have to eat now, right? So I have all my direct response oriented activities so that I can eat now, right? So it's you activate your digital, but paid digital is offset in multiple different ways, right? Because oftentimes if you look at just paid, you're like, oh my God, the ROI on straight up pay-per-click, I can't imagine. But if you're managing a fully integrated paid digital campaign, then it works. So if you've got straight up, pay-per-click, and then you have your remarketing and retargeting, and you have your SEO, and you have your channel partners, and you have the right landing pages and activation, then that can be outrageously cost efficient. So you have your, what can I do to eat now? And then Krista, to your point is, what do I need to do to fuel the pipeline for the future? So I can raise brand equity, I can raise brand awareness, and I can drive that connection all throughout, making human connections throughout the entire way. Ultimately, you got to establish what that ROI is for a holistic marketing strategy. And then you have to attribute what each marketing how each marketing tactic is going to contribute to the overall. So I expect this ROI from paid digital. Within that, I expect a bazillion times to 1 on SEO, and I expect maybe 5 to 1 on traditional pay-per-click. And then what do you expect from that future revenue? Because you can't always be chasing the lead from a direct response standpoint. You have to layer in the brand awareness and brand equity factor of it.
100%. You have the short-term returns, and then what are you building long-term? And for us, especially, we really try to help owners from the home office really work on their SEO, their pay-per-click advertising. And we're really looking at a lot of those digital integrations because we can't be on the ground locally. That's just never going to happen. And so during training as well for brand growth and ROI for their offices, we do a lot of relationship building, and a lot of our business is referral partners. So we're going to police officers, we're going to victim advocates, we're going to social workers, and we're making them aware that we exist. But then slowly we're trying to figure out, what do they care about and how do we show up for things that they care about? How do we support things that they care about to stand out? So we're not just asking for business or asking for referrals, but we're also trying to figure out how can we develop and build those long-term relationships that will then fuel the business. God forbid Google goes down, I mean, you always have to continue to plan as well for what you can control in your business and what you can't. And you can certainly control those relationships. I can't control Facebook. I can't control Instagram. I can't control Google. I have to play by their rules and their game. But also long-term, those relationships for us and for our business is just monumental. That is the bread and butter for us.
Yeah, 100%. I was gonna, sit here thinking about this before the call or before the meeting, and I was like, most affordable. Well, I mean, really, it's boots on the ground. I mean, the boots on the ground, basic networking, right? Being in things like this together, even though we are maybe looked at as competitors, but we're collaborating, and that's a beautiful thing, and that's in our local communities also. So it's even if you have very few franchisees, local community networking is an absolute, very cost-effective way, if not free. I mean, some of your BNIs and chambers and certain things do have a lower minimal, membership fee, if you will. But again, kind of goes back to that strategic plan. If you got it wrote down, like, who am I asking for? What are my asks this month? And getting in your local community where PuroClean or Bio1 or whomever is everywhere, that is brand growth. That is the best kind of brand campaign you could have, right? Because that's all word of mouth. That's all based on relationships and the continuation relationships, which take you 10 times further and shorten your sales cycle by what do you say, 5-10 touches on the average, right? So who doesn't want that? I want that. So really cost effective. When I thought about this, I was like, well, it's just kind of grassroots, shaking hand, business to business back in the day, right? It's 100%. You don't know what Facebook's going to do, but there again, that I go free too. So free, use your social media. Don't spend too much time, because then your ROI is going to go out of the roof, because time is your biggest commodity. Because we got to protect our time, but again, start with the free, very basic things in the beginning, and as you grow, you'll be able to have those finances and that revenue freed up a little bit more, because that brand awareness will take care of itself.
I think all of those are fantastic points. And before we kind of go to the question that's in the chat, I think that one thing that everybody kind of touched on was the different channels and the tactics, but we also have to research and figure out where our audience lives. And all of our audiences live in very different places. So that's really going to help drive the tactics, which then will drive the investment and kind of that backwards working, like you all had mentioned. The question in the chat is kind of related to that. How do you think about allocating investment in brand versus lead generation?
That depends upon the life cycle of your business. And I'll mirror what Krista said before. You always start with the end in mind. What's the goals and objectives of the business? Because marketing is here only to serve and to help meet the goals and objectives of the business. So if you are in growth mode, you may be investing more in one tactic than the other. But what are the objectives of the business? And then marketing has to sit back and determine, okay, these tactics are going to best serve meeting the goals and objectives of the business. But I would say, even with marketing, serving the goals of the business, marketing should always strive for profitable revenue, really, whenever humanly possible, because at the end of the day, it becomes almost a liability to the business then versus an asset. And there are ways to drive profitable revenue, even in high growth organizations.
I love that. Hopefully that answered your question. Does anyone else have anything that you would like to kind of add as far as affordable marketing tactics, finding the audience where it lives, or even the return on investment tracking and measuring for the brand growth?
So I kind of took, I'm sorry, Krista.
Oh, I was just going to say, aside from just where an audience lives, I would also think about who your audiences are, and then what are their biggest objections and how do you overcome them? Try to put yourself in their shoes and think, what could they ask me? What are they interested in? Are they price conscious? Are they value conscious? Are they customer service conscious? And then really start tailoring a lot of your tactics and strategy towards that. Understanding who you're reaching out to is so important, because we're asked so much throughout the day, digitally, in person, wherever we go, we're constantly being sold. We're as just human beings in general. And we're constantly being asked, buy this, learn about this, see here. And if you can add value and meet someone where they're already at and understand where they're already at, I think you have a leg up on your competition and really growing your brand.
Yeah.
So I actually took this question as franchise development over consumer. So when I was thinking this through about the best ROI for brand growth, I was thinking an affordable marketing tactic to go after your current customers. They're already there, they're already brand loyalists. So if you're looking for brand growth in that way and about bringing new franchisees on, which is the way I read the question, but I think an affordable way to go would be to go after your current customers and really kind of get them to buy into the concept.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that, that's where I was thinking too. And I would say, what do you have in place for your existing franchisees to refer people to you, customer wise and franchisee wise?
Yep.
So that can be a formal program or incentive for them to do that. But just thinking about they should be your raving fans and happy. So tap into that.
Yeah, a referral program would be a very affordable way to do that development side versus ops side, for sure.
And I think whether it's franchise facing or even client facing, the referral network is probably one of the strongest tactics. And that goes back to that human connection. And whether that is built digitally or physically, kind of boots on the ground, it all kind of goes back to that network and that level of trust that's being built as well. So many great points. There's a lot to unpack here. We could probably spend another hour just kind of going through a lot of this information. If there are any more questions, please feel free to drop those in the chat. We'll get to those right now. Are there any kind of lasting kind of summaries or anything that you'd like to add as far as lasting thoughts that you would like to send our viewers home with today?
I can think of.
If you'd like to buy a Bio One office, I'm just kidding.
Shameless plug.
Well done, Krista.
No, I mean, I'm available anytime anybody wants to reach out, questions, or, just to chat, meet somebody else in the network, meet somebody else in the franchising space. I'm always available to chat and get to know people on a greater level. I love me some people. So,
well,
yeah,
I
would say.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry, I would say to Michelle's point, like one final point to really hit home is what Michelle said earlier about FLDC and about how many people don't know their cost to acquire a prospect or a candidate. And so it's really hard to make a marketing plan, a customer, or a customer. Right. And it's really hard for you to establish a marketing strategy or budget, affordable or not affordable. You don't know if it's affordable or not if you don't know what your cost to acquire a customer or a candidate is. And so that's like one of the most important things that you should do.
I would to echo that is that to get to a point, you can get to a point of predictable revenue from a dev standpoint. You really can. You can determine, if you look at your historical data, you can determine your by broker and by and direct, right? You can determine your conversion from inquiry to close, right? You can determine the time to close, and there are certain tactics that I've used to reduce that time to close. So not only increase conversion from inquiry to close, but also, and the milestones in between there, but reduce your time to close because that brings in cash faster and network growth faster. But then also the time to get the cash, and how much it costs to get them there. So as marketers, we should be leading the way and doing whatever we can to drive predictable revenue with a predictable ROI. And you can get there if you're mindful and use an appropriate, if you're looking at the correct KPIs.
And if you're brand new if you're a brand new franchisor, you're just starting up, I can't stress this enough. It's so important to invest in systems and tools to be able to capture that data. For so long, I know a lot of organizations, they're trying to grow, and then they forget to collect the data. They forget to get a system-wide CRM tool and processes in place where they can actually gather consistent data and useful data so they can start helping educate and see what customer trends are, what national revenue trends are, and how things are progressing and where to adjust. They can get expensive, but it's so worth it. Getting a proper tool.
Yeah, that's where my head was going too. Just the CRM just keeps like scripting, right? You got to have, I mean, there are free ones. Yes, you can start somewhere, you know, there are, and they can be, you know, a little pricey depending on your stage of business growth, but it is so worth it because, I mean, I can answer so many questions now because I have all of those very segregated out in my CRM, and I know exactly where they came from. I know how many clicks it took to get them there, and you know, and you can get there. There's hope for you if you're newer, but even just the basic data is good data if you're not focusing on it. If that's not a priority right now, and you know, you do need to have some kind of grip, right? Goes back to that strategic plan, but you can start free, but it is highly important to have some kind of system that's helping you and your brain and your team and your brand pending where you are, at least give you some kind of a head nod that your testing, your field testing is working and where is it coming from.
Well, and I think to add on to that also, we are in such a unique position in this day and age that we have so many tools available to us.
Yeah.
At low cost as well as free. And there's no reason not to just start. Like when you launch your business, go ahead and have it in place and then just scale it as you need to, because that's going to feed into everything else that you all talked about as far as finding out where your audience is, creating those audience profiles, and then understanding your culture that you are building and how to communicate that. It all works together. So just take advantage of all of the amazing tools that we have available. Can you imagine starting way back when there were no computers and everything was handwritten and
No, I don't want to go back. That's the one good thing about the nowadays is what like my kids would say, well, nowadays, my back then days, like my kids get so annoyed and instantly eye roll me and want to walk out of a room when I start that conversation. But no, I do not want to go back to those days in this instance, in this topic, because it was on ops and development side. It was the way it looks now is so much more beneficial and helpful for efficiency for brands. And it's a good thing to be in franchising on this side of the technical advancements of the world. I can tell you that right now.
Well, just to be respectful of everyone's time, I want to thank you all so much for joining us today for the Visibility Game Changers for Emerging Franchise Brands. And thank you very much to our esteemed panel and CMO Peer Talks for allowing this to be put out into the world to actually help people. That's why we're here, is to mentor and to be mentees and to help spread the word and help rise each other up.